I saw them before she saw me. She leaned across a small table, her hand touched his sleeve. Quick, familiar. A move she used on me when we were new. He kept his body angled toward the door, like a man who wanted exits. He smiled once, tight, not the way a friend smiles. I stood half-hidden behind a column near the counter. My coffee cooled in my fist. My ring felt heavy. I told myself to breathe. I told myself I was misreading everything. She laughed at something he said. Not loud, just a soft exhale that moved her shoulders. She always did that when she wanted the other person to lean in. He leaned in. My phone buzzed, a calendar alert, a meeting I was already late to. I silenced it. I watched. Her eyes flicked to her watch. She reached for her purse. He covered her hand with his. Not firm. Still wrong. I stepped back. The floor shifted under me. I never believed stories like this. Men catching their wives in public, men who play detective because they are too scared to ask a question. I turned, walked out to the sidewalk, and stood there with both hands on my coffee, like it could steady me. She texted me 2 minutes later. Running late, traffic on Cesar Chavez, be home by 6, love you. Traffic. She was 2 blocks from my office. I typed a reply and erased it. I typed another and erased that one too. My thumbs shook. I sent nothing. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. 2 blocks away, my wife sat across from her ex. She had told me they hadn't spoken in years. She had also said if they ever ran into each other, she would tell me. She had not told me. I started walking. Not toward my office, not toward home. I walked toward the part of myself that would ask and keep asking until there was nothing left to ruin.
When I met Leah, she was teaching an evening design class and freelancing on the side. I was still pushing code at a startup that loved promising everything and shipping nothing. She liked to cut through noise. "Show me the thing that works," she'd say, tapping my laptop, "not the slide deck that lies." We married after 2 years. Small ceremony. Her sister cried. My mom hugged Leah like she had been waiting a lifetime for that exact shape. We made rules the way young couples do when they still believe in rules. No secrets, no triangulating, no disappearing into work without a signal. We kept them, mostly. She told me about her ex on the first night we moved in. Name, Evan. Photographer, charmer, good at attention, bad at devotion. She said he taught her to see. She said he also taught her to doubt herself. She left him the day she found a text thread with a model who wanted real intimacy and got a hotel address instead. "Why tell me?" I asked, sitting on a box labeled Kitchen Misk with my knees up. "Because if you ever see him with me, by accident, by coincidence, I want your first feeling to be compassion, not suspicion." She pushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "He was a chapter, not a theme." I believed her because she looked me in the eye when she said it. I believed her because belief felt like the point of marriage. If you can't believe the person you chose wrong. We bought a modest house in East Austin with a creaky hallway and a stubborn back door. We painted the front room ourselves and pretended the streaks were intentional. We argued about IKEA directions and made up on the kitchen floor with takeout containers between us. Our lives grew soft around the edges, the kind of soft you think is safety. Then the startup finally shipped a real product and money showed up like a prize you're not sure you earned. Leah's freelance work turned into a small studio with 3 clients she loved and 2 she tolerated. We learned new rules. Talk early. Don't give resentment a place to sleep. If you mess up small and fast. We did okay, until we didn't.
The first crack wasn't a fight, it was a silence. She started taking calls in the backyard, no big deal. Clients, I thought. Creative people like privacy. But the calls ran long, then longer. She'd come back in with a charged look like she had outrun something and didn't know how to tell me. One night I asked, "Everything good?" She nodded too quickly. "Just scope creep." "On which client?" "The new one." "What new one?" She shrugged. "Referral, branding package. They're still sorting budget. What's the company called?" She looked past me as if the name could be found somewhere near the stove. "We haven't settled. It's a stealth thing." I let it go. Stealth things exist. They also make useful cover stories. 2 days later, she changed her phone passcode. She didn't say it out loud. She just typed it when a notification lit up her screen and angled the device away from me. When I gave her a look, she said, "I had to change it. Client security. They're nervous about leaks." She had never hidden her phone from me. Not once. Not even when I reached for it to cue a playlist in the car. I told myself new clients can be paranoid. I told myself marriages evolve, and part of evolving means trusting shifts you don't like. Trust or die. Those felt like the options. The third thing happened a week later. I woke up at 2:13 a.m. and found the office door cracked. Her laptop glow hit the hallway. She sat inside with headphones on, eyebrows pinched tight. She jumped when I opened the door. "Hey!" She yanked off the headphones. Couldn't sleep. What are you working on? Deadline. She smiled without warmth. Go back to bed. I did. I stared at the ceiling. I counted red flags and talked myself down from each one. Adult life is messy. Work bleeds. People get strange under pressure. The next afternoon, I walked into the coffee shop near my office because my brain felt like static. That's where I saw her with Evan.
She came home at 6:03. She set her keys in the bowl. She kissed my cheek. Her lips were cool. Traffic was a mess, she said, moving toward the fridge. I watched her pull a can of sparkling water and crack it. How was your day? She asked, like nothing in the world had shifted. I didn't say his name. I didn't say I had seen her. I asked one question. Did you meet anyone interesting? She paused with the can at her mouth, a pause barely wired to a heartbeat. Not unless clients count. Clients always count. She took a sip. Then yes. Who? She closed the fridge and leaned against it. Babe, end of day. Can this wait? It could. I set my laptop aside. It probably shouldn't. Her eyes searched my face like she was checking for damage or danger. She set the can down. I had coffee with a potential client. Where? Meridian on 3rd. Who? Why does that matter? Because I'm your husband. I made my voice calm, flat, the way I do when I negotiate a contract I don't trust. Who? She looked down, then up. Evan. She said it like a person who decided the most honest lie is the one you tell clean. My breath left my chest like it had been waiting for permission. You told me you'd never see him without telling me first. I wasn't planning on it. He reached out through a mutual. He has a project. He asked for branding. It's money, Noah, real money. Why didn't you tell me yesterday when he reached out? I knew how you'd take it. How did I take it? She looked pained. Like this. You said you'd tell me. I'm telling you now. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I sat at the table and folded my hands. What kind of project? A gallery thing, she said. A retrospective. He wants a visual system that doesn't look like everyone else's. That sounds like him. He says people remember work that hurts. And you believe him now? I believe I can make something strong. I believe his money spends. You touched his hand. It came out before I could stop it. She blinked. Were you there? I stopped for coffee. I held her gaze. You touched his hand. She straightened. We were old friends having coffee. I touched his sleeve. It meant nothing. It meant something to me. She swallowed. I should have told you. I'm sorry. Are you taking the job? I told him I'd think. How long do you need to think? Until I trust you to trust me. That line was a blade. I felt it and said nothing. She picked up the can, took another sip, and left the kitchen with measured steps. I sat there and counted the seconds until I could stand without shaking.
I wish I had been the kind of man who could let faith do the work. I wasn't. I opened my laptop and turned on every boring talent I had. I'm a software engineer. If you give me a system with edges, I find the seams. It's not noble, it's how I eat. I checked our shared calendar. Nothing. I checked our joint card statements. A charge at Meridian, another at a print shop in South Austin 2 days prior. Leah hadn't mentioned a print shop. Her studio account is separate and I don't have access. I do have access to patterns. People leave heat signatures on the world. You feel them if you stand still. I opened our Mesh Router app. It logs device locations by frequency and time. Creepy, useful. Her phone had pinged off the downtown node the last 3 afternoons between 2 and 4. That wasn't Leah's usual schedule. She liked mornings. She hated downtown parking. I made a note. Then I did something worse. I went to the back door and found her tote. She was in the shower. I slid my hand inside, hating myself, and pulled out a receipt. The top read, Lumen Print Co. The line items were vague. Portfolio sheets, 8. Archival mounts, 2. Cash, no card. I put the receipt back as if that erased what I'd done. She came into the kitchen with damp hair and a soft shirt. She saw me standing there and stopped. Are we okay? We will be, I said. She watched my face, the way I blinked, the way I swallowed. She nodded like she was making a choice in stages. I'm heading to the studio first thing, early. If you want to come by later, I'll show you what I'm making. Will Evan be there? No, he doesn't get access like that. What does he get? Deliverables, boundaries. She lifted her chin. I promised myself something after him. No man gets to make me small again.
Am I making you small? You're making me cautious. I love you. I want us to be okay. I wanted that too. I also wanted to know why she paid cash at a print shop for portfolio sheets she could have printed at the studio. The next morning, I said I had a stand-up at 8. I left before dawn. I sat 2 blocks from her studio with the engine off and a cold knot under my sternum. She pulled up at 7:20, parked, and went inside. At 9:03, she came out with a clean folder under her arm. She drove west instead of back home or to a client. I followed, far enough to feel pathetic. She parked on a side street near a mid-rise condo building. Evan came out 5 minutes later wearing his camera like a necklace. He hugged her. Not long enough to burn. They went inside. I told myself she was delivering drafts. I told myself this was normal workflow. I told myself I wasn't a stalker. Then I watched an hour pass. The knot under my sternum hardened into something with edges. They came out at 10:14. She had no folder. He touched her back like she was a door. I put my head against the steering wheel and counted to 30. When I arrived home, her car was already in the driveway. She sat at the kitchen counter with her laptop open and a look that said she had been here all morning. She glanced up surprised. "You're back early." "Got canceled," I said. "Want coffee?" "Sure." She moved like a woman with nothing to hide. I watched her hands. They didn't shake. "Can I see the work?" I asked. "Give me till tomorrow," she said without looking up. "I want it to be clean." I nodded and went to my office. I opened a blank text file. I wrote 2 lines. Leah went to Evan's condo. She left without the folder. Then I stared until the words blurred, and I hated myself for writing them.
That afternoon, my phone lit with a number I didn't know. I let it go to voicemail. Then I played it on speaker because fear likes witnesses. "Mr. Heller, this is a courtesy call from Greeley and Sutter. We represent a party with information relevant to your marriage. Please call to arrange a confidential meeting." I listened again to make sure I'd heard it right. I Googled the firm. Real, mid-tier, aggressive. I called back. A woman answered. "Greeley and Sutter. This is Noah Heller. I got a call." "One moment." A man came on. "Mr. Heller, I'm Aaron Wills. Thanks for returning our call." "What is this?" "We've been retained to protect a client from reputational harm. The client believes you deserve to be informed before matters get public." "Which client?" "I can't disclose that without your permission or a meeting." "Who is threatening whose reputation?" "Again, this is best discussed in person." "I'm not agreeing to anything blind." "Then let me say this. If your wife is working with a former partner, that's one issue. If that former partner has a documented history with her that overlaps your marriage, that's another." I felt my skin tighten. "Say the thing, Aaron." He was silent for a beat. "There are photographs." I didn't breathe. He went on. "Our client is in possession of assets that, if misinterpreted, could harm both parties. We prefer precision. We prefer controlled outcomes. You seem like a man who understands control. What do you want from me?" "A meeting. Today." "Where?" He gave me an address, a glass-walled office near downtown. He hung up. I sat at my desk for 5 seconds and made a quiet decision. I would not tell Leah, not yet. I would not throw words like weapons without knowing which ones would cut. At the office, a receptionist with kind eyes offered water and then offered a second when I forgot the first. Wills appeared in a blue suit that looked expensive and didn't fit his shoulders. We sat in a small conference room. He put his phone face down like a magician pretending not to palm a card. "Ground rules," he said. "No recordings. No names leave this room. We talk like adults." I nodded. "Talk." He slid a manila folder across the table. "View only. No copies." Inside were 8 photographs. Leah and Evan outside the condo entrance. Leah and Evan in the lobby. Leah and Evan on a balcony I recognized from Evan's old Instagram. In one, Evan's hand pressed against Leah's lower back. In another, Leah's face was turned towards his, eyes closed, a breath's distance. None showed a kiss, none showed what my mind wanted to fill in. All showed enough. I put each photo back in the folder like it might bite. "What do you want?" I asked. "Our client is being extorted," Wills said, "not by your wife, by a third party. Your wife is a lever in that person's hand. We would prefer to take the lever away." "Explain the extortion." "Do you know a man named Miles Onstad?" "No." "Your wife does. He worked with Evan on a commercial set last year. He has videos from that set your wife does not want seen, not because of explicit content, because of context." "What context?" "A time frame that overlaps your marriage." My heart dropped to the floor.
She cheated? I didn't say that. I said overlap. Emotional, professional, physical, those are categories you apply after the fact to make sense of pain. What I can tell you is that Mr. Onstad claims he'll release footage that will ruin a woman's business unless Evan pays him a sum he can't afford. Why is any of this my problem? Because your wife visited Evan twice this week. Because if you confront her too soon, Mr. Onstad will have leverage over 2 people instead of 1. Because he has already hinted at contacting your employer. Ugly people play ugly. I stared at him. Why call me? Because you are the variable. If you blow up your home before we neutralize him, we lose the only line that matters, the truth line. He thrives on panic. You look like a man who prefers plans. You want me to do nothing. I want you to act with precision. I want you to use our presence to spook him into a meeting we can control. He watches your wife. He knows where she goes. If he sees you with Evan, he will hurry. When men hurry, they make mistakes. This is insane, I said. It is the situation, Will said. We did not choose it. We can still shape it. I stared at the folder. 8 photographs lay there like accusations without captions. Tell me exactly what you want me to do, I said.
The plan was simple in the way plans are when half the variables are human. I would meet Evan in public. We would talk in a way that looked heated. We would leave together. Onstad, if he was watching, would follow. Wills's investigator would tail him. We'd force a conversation under a camera in a place where later could be parsed from now. I hated all of it. I hated Evan most. Wills dialed Evan from his phone. He put it on speaker. Evan answered with a caution that sounded practiced. "This is Wills," the lawyer said. "We have overlap. Leah's husband is here." Silence. Then Evan's voice, smooth and thin. "Why?" "Because Miles is escalating. We need pressure back. We need your consent." "No," Evan said. "He's unstable. And he will keep your life unstable until someone stands up to him," Wills said. "You won't. Leah can't. Noah can." I said nothing. I did not trust myself to speak without turning the plan into a fist. Evan exhaled. "Where?" Wills named a bar on South Congress that had cameras covering every inch outside. 1 hour, he said. "Leah does not know. That is essential." Evan said okay like a man who had said okay his whole life to the wrong people. I stood on the sidewalk 45 minutes later, heart steady in the wrong way. Evan arrived first. He looked the same and not the same. Older, better styled. The kind of man who knows which angles make him look generous. He saw me, flinched once, and then smiled like this was a joke we shared. "Noah," he said, hand out. I didn't take it. "You contacted my wife. We're working together." "We are not." "It's a job. She's brilliant. Did you forget that?" A small rage moved up my throat. "Say what you have to say." He lowered his voice. "Miles is a parasite. He has pieces of a thing that looks worse than it is. He'll cut it to make it fatal. He wants 10 grand and he'll come back for more." "What is the thing?" "Old footage. From a shoot in Martha. A rap party. Leah came down for a day. We were stupid. She drank. We kissed. It was a mess. We were still learning how to stop." The world narrowed. "When?" 2 months after your wedding." He said it once, like he had rehearsed getting the hurt out clean. "It was 1 kiss. It was also a betrayal. She cried the whole flight home. We didn't touch after that. We didn't even text. I heard my blood and nothing else. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to sit down on the curb and cry like a child. I did neither. I kept my face still because a camera above us watched, and I needed the record to say I stayed upright." "Does she know you just told me?" I asked. "Leah wanted to tell you. She couldn't find a way to make it true without breaking you. I told her that's not how truth works. I told her I would face it if you ever found out through me." "Congratulations. Consider it faced." He flinched. "Miles wants to put it online with captions that make it look like an affair that never ended. He'll tag your company, he'll tag her clients. He's a man whose only joy is in cutting other people's narratives into pieces and selling the worst sequence. And you suddenly care about my narrative?" "I care about Leah. It's the only thing I got right about us. I care about her more than I care about being the hero in this moment." Headlights slid by.
Steps clacked on the sidewalk. A car idled at the curb too long. Wills's investigator stood a half block away pretending to look at his phone. I felt eyes on us that were not his. Evan shifted. He's watching, he whispered. He always watches. Can we please move this to a place with fewer ways to be cut open? No, I said. We stick to the plan. Evan's jaw worked. He swallowed his pride and nodded. Okay, he said. Walk with me like we're tired of each other. Give him the show he needs. We turned and moved toward the alley where the back cameras stacked too deep. A man stepped from a parked SUV and slung a messenger bag over his shoulder. He had the look of a former athlete who missed the shape of his old life and punished everyone who reminded him. He smiled without the top half of his face. Miles, Evan said, voice flattening. Miles tapped the bag. Look what the world delivered. I looked at the bag and saw our life inside it in pieces.
"You're Leah's husband," Miles said, eyes sliding over me like a scan he'd run before. "You look taller online." "You look cheaper," I said. My voice surprised me. It sounded like it belonged to a man who could stand here all night and never blink. He smiled with his mouth. "Funny." Evan kept his hands visible, palms out like he was negotiating with a snake. "We can pay you $2,000 to walk away. Today." Miles laughed. "Did I say 2? That's what you told me?" "I said 10. Today. Or I call her first client and ask if they like stories with pictures. You call anyone and you deal with me." He looked at me as if I had offered to read him a bedtime story. "What exactly do you think you are, Noah? A bouncer? A husband with a fist? Your code, your contracts. You're a man who believes agreements make people behave. They help." He shrugged. "Then agree to pay me." "No," I said. He raised his eyebrows. "Bold. Also, boring," I said. "Extortion is a dull man's game. You get your thrill once, then you chase yourself through smaller rooms. You never get out." He grinned like I had handed him a prop. "Hear that, Evan? Your replacement does monologues." "Stop," Evan said, just this side of pleading. "Miles, you said if you saw me with her husband, we'd talk about a reduced number and a non-disclosure with teeth." Miles tilted his head. "I also said bring cash. We're not paying you today. You're paying someone, me, or the crisis PR firm you hire tomorrow when your wife's tear-stained apology video doesn't work." Evan took a step forward. "We were broken. We were cruel. She's not your canvas." Miles watched him for a beat with bored contempt, then he turned back to me. "This part always kills me," he said. "The noble ex, the wounded husband, the woman out of frame who keeps thinking she can control the cut." "Show me the footage," I said. He patted the bag. "That's not how this works. Show me or we're done." He smiled. "You're already done." He reached into the bag. Will's investigator moved. Fast. He tapped Elbow's elbow with a practice flick that sent the bag to the ground. Not violent, effective. A small camera skittered out, bumping to a stop near my shoe. Miles swore. Evan flinched. I stayed very, very still. "Hands where I can see them," the investigator said, low and calm. "And let's all reconsider the part where you break laws you don't want in your paperwork." Miles lifted both hands with a theatrical sigh. "I was getting a phone! Relax!" The investigator nodded at me. I crouched, picked up the small camera, and turned it. A red light blinked. Recording. It had been recording before he stepped out of the car. The investigator clicked it off and slipped it into his jacket. "We're going to talk like adults. Here are the rules. 1. You do not record anyone without consent. 2. You do not threaten to publish anything as leverage. 3. You allow my client to purchase all original files for a mutually agreed upon amount with a contract that ends this forever." "Your client?" I asked. The investigator nodded at Evan. "He's paying. Not because he's guilty, because he's tired." Miles laughed in his face. 3? Try 13. 3, the investigator said again. "Because otherwise, I walk across the street with this camera to a cop who will find a reason to ask you about your other little side projects. And because I already know you owe a man named Rico 8, and he does not take cashier's checks." The change in Miles's face was quick and mean. He swallowed. He stepped back like distance could save him from knowledge. "You don't know Rico," he said. "I know his hobby," the investigator said. "If you want to keep your teeth, you'll take 3 and a clean page. That's my last offer." Evan looked at me. His eye said please, his mouth stayed closed. I hated them both. I also understood that a fast end is sometimes the only mercy you get. "Do it right now," I said. Miles shifted weight. He was still calculating angles when a new voice sliced the air behind us. "Don't sign anything." We all turned. Leah stood at the mouth of the alley. Her face was pale.
Her hands were empty. She looked at me, then at Evan, then at the investigator, then at Miles. She did not blink. She walked forward like a woman walking into a fire she chose.
"How long have you known?" she asked me. "Long enough," I said. "Since the coffee," she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. She looked at the bag on the ground. "That's the footage?" Miles smirked. "You miss me?" She didn't look at him. "You never happened." He laughed. "Keep telling yourself." Leah turned to Evan. "You were going to pay him." "Yes," he said. "Without telling me?" "I tried. You wouldn't let me carry anything that touched him." "You lost that right years ago," she said. She took a breath and faced me. "Noah, I should have told you everything when it was small. I didn't. I let it grow. That's on me." "Say it plain," I said. My voice felt thick. "I went to Marfa 2 months after we married. He called about a job. He said he wanted to show me the next version of himself. I went because I wanted it to be clean in my head. One night, a bad fight on set, I drank, he kissed me, I kissed him back, I stopped, I left in the morning, I came home and I almost told you, and then I didn't, because shame makes you believe silence is noble. I cut him off, I blocked him. I told myself I would take that debt to my grave and pay it alone. My chest hurt like something invisible had been leaning on it for hours, and just now moved off. I never slept with him after we married. I never touched him again, I never wrote him again. Miles had a camera at the party. He shot everything. He has exactly enough to destroy my business with a lie that looks like truth. I stared at my wife and saw 2 people, the one I had chosen and the one who had been drowning 2 feet from me without a sound. I didn't tell you about coffee because I panicked. I thought if you saw us together, it would rewrite the kiss into an affair. I thought if I kept it small, it could stay small. Miles clapped slowly. "Bravo!" She ignored him. She looked at me. "I'm sorry." The words were not big enough. They were also the only ones that could fit in this space. "Okay," I said. It wasn't forgiveness. It was acceptance of the terrain. I faced Miles. 3,000, release today, or you meet Rico tomorrow. He stared at me, then at Leah, measuring which hurt had more colors. He spat on the alley floor like a boy in a movie, and then he nodded. 3, he said. "But I keep a copy until the check clears." The investigator shook his head. "No copies, no cloud, we check the drives, we wipe together, we call the bank from a phone I choose and verify the cashier's check. All of it happens in the next 2 hours or it never happens." Miles looked at Leah. "He's bossy." She didn't smile. "He's my husband." He turned away like the word burned. We walked inside the bar. Papers appeared. A manager notarized signatures for the price of a future gift card. The investigator produced a cashier's check like a magician pulling a dove from a sleeve. We filled in lines. We stared at each other like strangers with shared scars. Miles handed over a portable drive and 2 SD cards. The investigator connected a small laptop and pulled file trees. He ran checksum tools and a script that wiped empty space. He copied the footage to an encrypted vault with an audit trail. He did it all steady, bored, precise. When it was done, he looked at Evan. "You're clean." Evan looked like a man who had been hit by a wave and found his feet again on sand that still moved. "Thank you," he murmured. He turned to me. "I'm sorry." I didn't answer. He turned to Leah. He opened his mouth and closed it. He nodded. He left. Miles took the check like it was poison he planned to survive. He blew us a kiss and walked out into whatever version of himself he could still sell. The investigator gave us a card. "If anything surfaces, call." He looked at Leah. "Tell your clients a simple truth now, not the whole story, just enough to make anyone else's cut look like the manipulation it is." Leah said she understood. We thanked him. He left too. We were alone at a high top with pens and empty glasses, and the quiet that follows a bad operation.
I watched her fingers. They twitched once and then stilled. "We go home," I said. She nodded. We didn't touch on the walk to the car.
At home, she sat at the table and folded her hands like a student waiting for a grade. I stood at the sink and ran water I didn't need. "Do you want me to leave?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'll sleep in the guest room." "No," I said again. "I don't want punishment, I want facts. Then I want a plan." She watched me like she had almost forgotten how. "Okay." I turned the water off. I sat across from her. "First, there are no more secrets. Not one. Not ever." "Agreed," she said. "Second, you tell your clients you are the target of a bad faith edit by a third party. You show the release, you frame it as protection, you say you will not negotiate with coercion." She nodded. "I can do that." Third, therapy. Together. Separate. Both. Yes. Fourth, you end the job with Evan. She closed her eyes. I already did. When? On the drive home from the bar, she said. I left him a voice memo. I told him I'm done building anything near him. I told him the last thing I want from him is a boundary. I sat with that. Okay. She looked at me. Fifth? She asked softly. Fifth, I said, you tell me the thing you have not told me yet. She stared at my face like it contained a code to her own survival. She exhaled. I took a pregnancy test last week. My heart tripped. And? Negative, she said. But for 2 days I thought I could be pregnant and I wanted it to be yours and I had no right to that want because I had not told you about Marfa. I sat on the bathroom floor and hated myself for building a version of us that depended on your ignorance. I covered my eyes. I pressed the heels of my hands until I saw sparks. When I dropped them, she was crying without sound. I'm sorry, she said again. I nodded. I stood. I moved around the table and pulled her up. I wrapped my arms around her and felt the shape of the person I chose and the person who had betrayed me taking up space in the same body. We will not be perfect, I said into her hair. We will be honest. She nodded against my chest. That night, we lay in the same bed with the distance of two people learning how to share air again. At 2 a.m, she reached for my hand. I let her have it. We slept like that. Not rest, not peace. Something like consent to keep breathing.
The next week became a series of small, hard choices. Leah emailed her clients. She wrote tight, no apologies, just facts, and a line about creative partnerships requiring clean boundaries. 2 clients thanked her. 1 asked for a call. She took the call with her shoulders back and said the same thing with a voice that did not shake. I told my manager a reduced version of the truth. A family thing might hit social. I'm in front of it. He asked if I needed time. I said no. I worked because the alternative was looking at a wall and narrating pain to myself. The investigator sent a brief update. Miles cashed the check. The release cleared. The footage was in cold storage. He recommended we make a report anyway. We did. I wrote the incident date like a man writing his own trespass. Leah and I started therapy with a woman who looked like she had seen every shape of love and did not flinch. She asked us to say our worst thoughts out loud. I said I felt smaller than the man Leah kissed because my whole life had been built around being safe. Leah said she felt like honesty would cost her the only person who had ever believed she was good. The therapist nodded and said, "You're both right. Now decide if you want to build a marriage that can hold those truths without making them weapons." We did the homework. We wrote timelines. We wrote consequences and then set them on fire, because punishment is a cheap ritual that delays change. We made new rules that were the same as the old ones, but meaner in their clarity. One night, Leah brought me a box. Inside were printed photos from our years together. Good ones, easy ones. She laid them out on the table in a line. She put the manila folder from Will's next to them. "This is the truth," she said. "All of it. One picture doesn't erase the others. The folder is not the whole story. Neither is the line." I stood behind her and looked down at our life like a timeline of a project with a bad sprint that did not kill the release. I put my hand on her shoulder. "We're not going to design our pain," I said. "We're going to live through it." She nodded. We did not touch for a week. We slept with inches between us like a moat. On the 8th night, she rolled toward me. I did not roll away. We made love like two people who did not know if this was repair or goodbye. It was neither. It was a body saying yes when the mind still had questions. It did not fix anything. It made the next morning possible.
I believed her, and then I believed us again, and then I chose to stay long enough to see which belief could survive the light.